I can edit all this out, so don't worry about it.
Take that part out.
All right, welcome to How's Your Wine? We are here with Desiree Harrison Brown. Hello, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you for joining. Before we dive in, please introduce yourself to everyone and let them know kind of how you started your wine journey.
Sure. So I'm Desiree. I am a wine educator, a content creator, and an entrepreneur. I kind of fell into the wine industry by accident. I was working in project management in corporate America and just found myself super unfulfilled. I got a part-time job in the wine industry doing some tastings. I worked at a small tasting room here in my home state of Maryland and really just fell in love with wine and decided to make a career change and go full-time in the wine industry.
So what happened to you, like, when you felt like, okay, I wasn't fulfilled with what I was doing day to day? And again, like, who was that person who influenced you to try wine?
Yeah, so it's so funny. Like, I didn't know anything about wine. I just got this part-time job. I was doing these tastings and it was really fun. I was talking to customers, but I didn't know much. I was studying before each of the tastings once I found out what wine I would be pouring. And that's what started to get me curious about wine, and people would ask questions, and if I didn't know the answer, that was always what I went to go home and kind of go deep dive into whatever they asked me about so I could know for next time. But I really didn't have people in my life that enjoyed wine in a more serious sense. Like, my family, there's always been alcohol around, maybe spirits, but not like a true love for wine. So when I started taking wine seriously, I found WSET and started taking courses through that organization. And that's really where I found my community of wine lovers. I met so many people in my class. I was meeting people to do tastings outside of class. And I also started my social media account, Wine Noir. I started that in 2018, and that was at the very beginning of my journey. And I didn't position myself as an expert. I was just there trying to, tell people about the new wine that I bought. If I learned something cool or interesting, I would put it online. But the page just really grew, and I got connected with so many other people that love wine. So that was really how I found my community and really just decided, hey, this is exactly where I'm supposed to be.
So wonderful story, like, just to say it, how you basically just fell in love with wine just by trying wines, right? By testing wine. For you, what was the switch that flipped for you? Like, when people found out, okay, she's like really killing this right now. She's really dominating the wine space via social and then just off social media.
I don't know. It's so funny. Like, people look at me now as like the one who knows a lot about wine. And sometimes I get comments like, oh, you're bougie because you know about wine. And I hate that because it's a funny story. I haven't told anybody else this story, but I went to a friend's house and his mom knew that I was a wine lover. And I'm a wine professional, so that's fine. But she hid all her bottles of wine. Like, she didn't want me to see the wine that she was drinking because she was like, it's probably not good enough. So I just try to, when people are like, oh, you're a wine professional, and kind of, I don't want to say put me on a pedestal, but they can get a little bit intimidated by the fact that I know a lot about wine. So I like to be down to earth and just be on everybody else's level. There's no wine that I won't drink. I might not love it, but I'm not going to be like, I'm not drinking that. So, I think it was after getting the certifications and just going full time in the wine industry, people were like, oh, you're really serious about this thing. I thought you were just, doing this for fun.
That's dope. So for you, you talked about being from Maryland. I feel like this is a continual thing for me. Like, a lot of people that I've talked to have the Maryland background. Talk about how And I don't know where you're located now, but talk about how you feel like that area has really blossomed in the wine game.
It's so funny. I just moved back to Maryland. I lived in LA for 1 year. So coming back to the East Coast, I'm really trying to get reacquainted with the wine scene
Mm.
here. It's a lot different. When I was in LA, I was invited to events, wine events every week. I was around wine people all the time. Here, I mean, Maryland is different. I'm outside of DC, so there are still things happening, but I would definitely say the scene is a little more low key than LA. I mean, as you can probably expect, but I will say we do have a good wine scene here. There are really fun wine bars to visit. I'm going to Maxwell Park in DC, which is a wine bar that I loved before I moved. So I'm excited to go there again next week. But there are a lot of just fun wine spaces to go. There's a lot of wine professionals here in the area. So I'm really looking forward to getting reconnected with my wine community here on the East Coast.
So I had no idea you obviously spent time in LA. Just going through your feed, you talked about I guess, the high key vibes of LA. What were some of the other benefits of being in the wine scene out in Cali?
Just being so close to wine country. I was about 4 hours from Northern California, so it was a quick flight to a shorter flight. It was a 4 hour drive, so that was really cool to get an opportunity to go to Lodi, to go to Napa, Sonoma. Being really close to wine country was really amazing. But even just inside of LA, there's so many restaurants. All the restaurants have cool wine lists, wines that you've never heard of. Just the wine scene there is really fun. A lot of natural wine, which before I moved to LA, I knew about natural wine. I'm open to trying natural wine, but it wasn't always readily available. So it was really cool to explore natural wine in LA, and just cool people in
Yeah.
LA. So there were so many benefits just meeting people that were so open to just sharing knowledge, sharing wine, and having a good time all around wine.
And what made you pursue going to LA?
So I actually moved to LA for a job. Before 2020, I got a new job. I was a wine ambassador for a global company. And I worked remote for a year because of the pandemic, obviously. And they were like, okay, we're ready for you to go to LA. And I think it was a little bit premature moving there because, you know, the world wasn't fully opened up. But I just decided that it wasn't a good fit for me. So I left that job, but continued to stay in LA and finished out a full year there.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Um, Now going to the educational part of your career, talk about some of the struggles and hurdles that you've had getting into that space.
I mean, wine education is so expensive. When I first started taking the classes, I was like saving up my money from my corporate job and my part-time jobs just to be able to take the classes. So that was one of the biggest hurdles. Also, just the time commitment that it takes. At one point, I was working full-time in corporate America, and I had a part-time job at the winery as well as doing the tastings and had to make time to study. So it was just a lot to juggle. I think people see wine and they think wine education is just fun. You're just drinking wine all day, which, I mean, it is true. It is really fun and you do get to drink a lot of cool wine, but you do have to study a lot. It's a lot of geography. It's a lot of knowing winemaking processes, knowing the regions, knowing the wine styles. So really finding the time to commit so that I didn't waste the money that I saved for the
Yeah.
classes.
So for people who are looking to dive deeper into their wine education, what would you recommend they start doing? You obviously mentioned, being more financially savvy. What else should they be looking for?
I would say look for scholarships. There are so many organizations now that give scholarships, especially for women and people of color, particularly the Roots Fund, which is an organization that is committed to giving scholarships for people of color. And I got a scholarship from the Roots Fund, and that's how I am taking my WSCT diploma. But there are so many other organizations out there. I also received scholarships from Women of the Vine and Spirits. I know there's Wine Unify. Batanage is another organization for women. Verizon Project, I think they're based somewhere on the East Coast, maybe Virginia. But there are so many organizations. Psalm Foundation, so many places to get scholarships. So my biggest tip is to look for the scholarships and try to get some money to help, you know? And then when somebody else is paying for it too, you also feel a little bit more of a push. You're like, okay, I got this money. I have to pass because I can't not after they gave me the money. So look for scholarships. They're out there. And I think I share a bunch of resources either on my social media or on the Wino Shop website. There should be a tab for resources where I share a lot of organizations that give scholarships and mentorship in the space.
One of the things that I saw, and that's wonderful information. I know you post a lot on IG, your travels and your studies. I saw you went to was it Europe you just came back from or somewhere?
Yeah, I just got back from Italy.
Yeah. So describe that experience for everybody.
Oh my gosh. I mean, traveling for wine is one of my favorite things to do. It's one thing to read about places in a book, to see pictures online, but it's a completely different story to go there, to touch the soil, to see the grapes, to speak to the winemakers. It's such a beautiful experience, and it just puts all of the theory that you learn in class right in front of you, and it just deepens your understanding of wine in general. So I love wine travel. I went to Italy. I was in Orvieto to become an ambassador for the region. So hopefully we'll be doing some educational events around Orvieto and spread the love. It's a region in Umbria that not a lot of people know much about. So I'm looking forward to just sharing all that I learned and hopefully getting a lot more people to visit and know about the region.
And one of the things that I've noticed a lot is especially for African Americans, it can be tough to travel a lot, especially with the pandemic, with obviously the potential for a recession here in the United States. What else are you doing to help bring out that spirit and allow people to understand the importance of traveling, not just domestically, but internationally?
Yeah, I think I really try to use my social media as a source of inspiration. I love creating content because I want other people to see, hey, we can do this. We belong in all spaces. Don't be afraid. It can be scary to go to a region and not know the language, or to be eating food that you don't know how to pronounce, that you've never heard of. But I love sharing the experience and showing, hey, I'm no different than anybody else. I am scared sometimes too. I have moments where I feel uncomfortable as a woman, as a Black woman traveling in Europe, but you overcome and you realize that you have so many similarities and commonalities with people around the world. So you have to get out of your comfort zone. And that's my whole purpose for sharing.
That's dope. Speaking of traveling, you have any travel plans? What's on your bucket list for your next wine adventure?
I don't have anything planned or solidified. I'm going to be studying a lot for the rest of the year. I have 2 more diploma units that I'm taking before the end of this year. So I'm going to buckle down and study. But I really hope to go to Portugal and South Africa really soon. Ooh, those are top of my list right now.
Dope. Speaking of lists, so do you have any varietals that you are just really dying to try for? What's something that you haven't tried that you might be more interested in?
That's a really good question. I don't know if I have anything that I'm dying to try. Right now I've been into Italian wines. There are so many grapes in Italy. Now that I'm an ambassador for Orvieto, I feel like I need to know even more about Italy in general. So I've really just been exploring the region, the red wines, the white wines, the sweet wines of Italy. So that's really where my head is. That's where my head is right now, is really in Italy.
All right. I gotta try Italy. That's on my bucket list. Portugal is also Lisbon is on my bucket list too to try.
Yes.
Get there. So I can definitely connect with you on that. As far as you, like personally, what are your areas of growth and opportunity that you see yourself in the wine industry in the next 3 to 5 years, besides your awesome diplomas?
Yeah, so my diploma, I want to get that out of the way, but I really want to find a region, fall in love with a region, and really start to specialize. Getting the diploma and studying through the WSET, you realize that you know, I don't want to say a little bit because you learn a lot in WSET, but you have such a wide knowledge base. You have to learn about really the world of wine, and really the next step in my journey, I hope, is to just find a region. I'm hoping that it comes to me. Like, I just have this moment where I feel drawn and connected to a region, and just really dive deep into that region to, you know, visit, to meet the producers, to fall in love, and just, you know, focus on being a specialized educator in that region. So who knows what that region will be? Who knows what experience I will have? I'm really hoping that it just comes to me and I'm drawn to it. But that's really my hope. Instead of just knowing a little bit about everything, I want to know a lot about one thing.
That's amazing. Yeah, really focusing like on one lane, as you mentioned.
Yeah,
it's tough as a content creator and as somebody who, for you, is so well versed in your space. That's very appreciative to hear.
Thank you.
For sure. I don't want to take up too much of your time because I know you're studying and just getting back from travel. So, is there anything else that you want to share? Like, where can people follow you and really continue to connect with you on this wine journey?
Thank you so much for having me. If you want to follow me, you can follow me on social media at Wino Noir. And then you can also follow my apparel and accessory shop at the Wino Shop.
All right. Well, again, y'all keep following her on Instagram. Check out her shop. All the gear that she has is definitely available today. So stay stocked up. Again, keep tuning in to How's Your Wine and follow her on her Instagram, as she mentioned. So, again, thanks to everyone who tuned in, and we'll see you next time.